At Elevate One Consulting, we specialize in executive, business, and accountability coaching tailored just for you. Discover the power of enhanced leadership skills, improved performance, and increased self-awareness. Our expert coaches will help you navigate challenges, articulate your vision, and establish a work-life balance. With Elevate One Consulting, you get proven methodologies to drive growth and success, insightful feedback and personalized strategies, clear goals, and actionable plans. Whether you're a C-suite executive, business owner, or entrepreneur, our coaching programs are designed to help you thrive. Visit www.elevateoneconsulting.com and take your first steps towards a focused future. Elevate One Consulting. Innovate, grow, elevate. Welcome back to The Unbroken Place, where it begins and ends with empathy. I'm your host, Eddie Paul Thomas, and this week we are unpacking a topic that does not get discussed enough in our communities. That topic is incarceration, fatherhood, and empathy. Many years ago, I had the honor of working with at-risk families and witnessed firsthand how tough the reentry transition for fathers could be. Fathers who had served their time and seek not only to rejoin society and find employment, also wanted the opportunity to be good fathers, to make up for all the years that they had lost with their children. Dr. Michael Guynn is with me today to discuss the topic. With over 30 years of experience in social welfare, Michael has worked as a senior field social worker for Riverside County, Orange County, and Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services. He is currently countywide kinship coordinator for San Bernardino County. He has served as the recording secretary and board member of NAAPY, board member of Park Mesa Heights Neighborhood Council, president emeritus of the Association of Black Social Workers of Greater Los Angeles, and the national treasurer of NABSW. So let's get started. So much for joining us on The Unbroken Place, Dr. Michael Guynn. We are just thrilled to have you on. For those who don't know, Dr. Michael Guynn is actually family to me and is doing some amazing work with families out in LA. And it's an honor to have you on because I know what you're doing out there in the community.
Thank you for that welcome. Wow, it's amazing how I've seen you grow into a man, to a father, and as a husband. Because I can recall when you were, I'm like, wow, it's like, wait a minute, not little Eddie, but Eddie, and so it brings back memories from family gatherings that Aunt Rita always put together, whether it's your birthday, even Halloween parties, Christmas, Easter egg hunt. It was always a way for us to come together as a family, break bread, have a good time. All winners, no losers. And so outside of your parents, you carry that with you. And you may not utilize it, but you can always pull it from your shelf and start anew, or start with your own family or significant other and extended family members, and just kind of look at it from the standpoint of what you were grown into, but also people may not always understand it. So you need to do more showing than talking, in a sense, from that respect. But I'm humbled, and it's my first podcast of being interviewed. So hopefully I won't over talk, over process, over analyze the question.
For those listening who don't know, Dr. Guynn is on my mother's side of the family, which is a large family. My grandmother had 15 children. and all of those children had children, and some of those children are starting to have children now. So it's we have a large family of
Yeah.
people doing amazing things, whether it be on a large scale or on a smaller scale. Um, I love just kind of connecting with my family members and seeing how they're not just doing, but what
Right.
they're doing in their
Right.
communities.
Right. Right.
It's a really fun thing. So
Right.
specific to you, Dr. Guynn, let me ask you.
Sure.
With our topic today, we're focusing really on fatherhood and empathy, and I would love for you to share your personal journey into fatherhood and how it shaped you as a person.
Well,
Yeah.
in a sense, well, let me premise it with this. Before, and just only men that have had children, before you have a child, is your responsibility is pretty much to yourself and your family. Um, and it's not something that's selfish. It's more like self-preservation. But
Mm-hmm.
when you do have your child or children, that first child is transformative. And so, in a sense, that manhood just got bumped up another 2 or 3 levels. So
Yeah.
you're not just responsible for yourself, but another life. And the I think the difference between men and women is that aha moment happens to a woman when she confirms that she's pregnant. To me, that's just my opinion. When
Mm-hmm.
that conception, that's when her that motherhood starts. Now they're already nurturing by nature, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it starts there. So in other words, women or mothers get a 9 month head start on us. But as far as when I first had Cheyenne, I was like, just going through the birthing process was by itself. That was that's a whole nother conversation. I didn't pass out. I didn't tap out. I just said, well, here we are. And so
Yeah.
I'm down looking at Cheyenne, and I'm like, she was about 7 pounds 8 ounces or something. And I'm like, head full of hair. I'm like, you good for it locked in for at least 18 plus. But she's 27, so but I had to revise that. I said parenthood is until I tap out or she taps out, or it never ends. It's an ongoing thing. So I don't regret
Yeah.
it. I think it's a beautiful thing. It helped me to grow up and mature from the sense of being more conscious about being empathetic, being patient, which I'm still working on that. But
Mm-hmm.
looking at it from a lens of provision, protection, and support. We have some ups and
Uh,
downs and stuff, but it's always
yeah.
we always try to make it about Cheyenne. Um, and it's funny because now Cheyenne is when she first started college. It was difficult for me because it was almost like a relinquishing of my duties to the
Mm,
school in a sense. Not
yeah.
that I didn't provide the umbrella, so I probably cried more than her mother. But her
Mm,
mother and her were really close. My reality is that um, it's a trade-off. You have to work, you have to provide. I wish I had more time to hang out, but that's okay. I'm making up for it. But she also
yeah.
knows we come from a family of people that work. If you don't work, you don't eat. You get
Yeah.
so. In a nutshell, I grew up. I initially understood what true manhood was, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not always these two right here. Now that's the rawness of being a man's man. That's an option, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also this, what comes out your mouth, because you also have to watch what you do around your kids, what you say around
Yeah.
your kids, how you and mom act around the kids. So kind of your life ain't your life anymore. It's around them. Everything is around the child, even my work
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah. I can relate to so much of what you're saying, um, in different respects. I worked in social work as well. Just with working with special needs children, working with the unhoused in the Midwest. So when I hear you talking about various things when you're doing your casework and working with families, I was like, it went off. But just specifically with regard to fatherhood, there was something, like you were saying, it's
Right.
not about you. It's not all about you. And for me, I remember specifically with my first, there was this light bulb that went off. Like it. Yeah, when she was pregnant, it was real, but it wasn't real. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't real.
Mm.
But then that first cry that you hear, my there was a wiring that changed in my brain. Like I instantly was like, okay, do we have a car seat? Like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
often do they need to be fed? Who? All of the questions came up, but my Papa Bear, Grizzly Bear, protect the family was on 3,000.
Yeah.
No one could touch that bubble for my baby and wife at the time, and all of that. Like there was a level of protection that as you grow and you learn, oh yeah, it's okay, they can fall down, okay, they can throw up, it's okay,
Right.
all
Right.
those things that are natural, you learn, okay, take a breath, Eddie, it's cool. But there was a natural switch that said, this world that you live in, Eddie, is no longer just about you and your goals
Mm.
and what you
Mm.
do with the rest of your life. It is
Mm.
now, how can I pour into this child, protect this child, uh, provide for this child? There's no, man, I just got fired from this job. Maybe I'll just lay back for, nope.
Right. Right.
I'm not just saving money for me. I'm not just uh, making moves for me. And then to hear your child repeat back things that you say, it's like,
Mm.
ooh, another light bulb just went off. I need to maybe watch how I say things. I need to be more of a teacher, an
Yeah.
educator. And then when it comes to your partner, there was a part of me that learned very quickly that I need to be a teammate. It's not, this is how Eddie's going to do it, and everybody needs to fall in line. No, there are things that she is an expert in that I have no concept of. And there are things that I am an expert in that she has no concept of. And so communicating and having an understanding of who's got what, on this day, I call it, when I'm talking to my clients in business, I'm saying it's learning when to expand and when to
Mm.
contract.
Mm.
And you do that personally, with your relationship, where you're like, okay, there's some things that you expand, take up all the space you need to in this room because you know what's going on with this thing.
Mm. Mm.
And you need to be able to contract and let that other person lead out when they know what's up in this particular area. And so I just think of that in the context of fatherhood. And I know that none of it really works without empathy. And so for you, just, not just on your personal journey, but also with the families you work with, the fathers you work with, I'm curious how you would define empathy and why you believe it's critical to the role of fatherhood.
Well, it was easy to synergize me being a field macro social worker with cases, meaning the same empathy that I share with either my significant other or my child, wanting the best for them and making sure that I could minimize and mitigate as much as possible any type of issue or impending hurt, harm, or danger that possibly come their way. Same with a client. First and
Mm-hmm.
foremost, you have to acknowledge your humanity. By a simple "Good morning, how are you?" Some folks can't even do that in terms of, because their household wasn't like that growing up.
Yeah.
So a lot of what you do growing up translates into being a social worker. Everybody can't be one. Some people don't need to be one. I can, because you're in it for the wrong reason. Secondly, you've had colleagues of mine that were LCSWs, depending on what state, clinical social workers, licensed social workers, psychologists. I wouldn't refer a client to you ever again in life, because if your
Yeah.
personality is like that, imagine how you are in the client being vulnerable to your direction.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
terms of it, it was easy because I could translate what I was taught and what the important things were in life, because you had folks that you just had to advocate in a sense of them reminding themselves about who they were before. And
Mm.
if I listen to the family history and you were functioning at one point in time and there was a breakdown which happens in life, I know you can go back to that. What was helping the household to function? Husband, wife, kids. What was the life event that caused um, I don't call it a downfall, but a disruption.
Hmm.
It kind of snowballs a domino effect. Was it infidelity? Was it drugs, alcohol? Was it work? Who did what, when, and where? And so, in most cases, you deal with the mother in the cases. Unfortunately, we did a disservice to the father, because when even before you're assigned a case, emergency response goes out, does the evaluation, and puts the mother on the hook for the responsibility of the kids. And the father's like, well, you know what? Here's the time to be at court, just be there. We wouldn't even try to bring him in terms of the holistic piece in terms of service in the case. And that's just,
Hmm.
it wasn't so much internal
Wow.
policy, but that's just how the money from the federal government was, um, the policy was geared towards supporting mothers and nothing for the fathers. Fast forward
Yeah.
20, 30 years, there's a program I work in San Bernardino County now, for fathers.
Hmm.
We had a fatherhood breakfast. We got things for fathers who want to reunite, not reconnect with the mother per se, but just reconnect with the children before they get to the point of being adults.
Yeah.
Learning parenting skills, and also them owning what may have caused that, them going to
Hmm.
incarcerated, domestic violence, owning it, healing from it, and moving on from it, and being in a position where asking forgiveness for both the mother and the children to be back in their life. And most men, yes, and God, it's natural and God given, but you got children that aren't children anymore. And you got to be upfront with them and share your narrative, not the mother's narrative. Because most cases, I tell the mothers, and they don't like this in my cases, don't dog the father out in front of the kids. This,
Yeah.
if let
Yeah.
them find out. If he said they want to visit, then let that take place. If it don't, you can say something that's conciliatory, but don't, because what happens is there may be several reasons, and I tell the mother, it might be you they got a problem dealing with. And some fathers was like, if I ain't got to deal with it, I just deal with the kids whenever. And the women don't understand that. They don't want the drama. Most men want peace. I don't want the drama. I mean, after we done gone through what we went through, I just want peace. Let me spend time with my kids. No, I don't want you back. Mothers personalize it and reject because they don't want me back. You got to want me back for you to see the kids. No, it don't work like
Yeah.
that. I've had cases where mothers and fathers go through the police station, because I work outstation at LAPD Southwest, which is active station. But father come in one end, sign a book. You talking about maybe about 50 feet between them. They can see the mother. Mother signs the child out, walks across there. See you on Sunday. Same thing.
Wow.
One day I went out there and said, look, y'all, cut this out. I said, come here. Come here. And the watch commander saw me. Hey, can I use one of the rooms in the back? And I let the child kind of hang out in the front or whatever with the watch commander. They gave him, stuff to do, and I talked to both of them. I said, "Look, come on, it really got to be like that." So I
Mm.
did an impromptu meeting. We were there for about 2 hours. Watch commander didn't have a problem with it, and I was able to kind of get them to at least work out a plan where they could do a meet and greet outside of a police station. Because
Yeah.
we meet the child is like 5 or 6, but the child, like, we got to meet it, and the children are not stupid. Man, we got to meet it so my mom and daddy won't get into it. So I broke it down to him, and I stay in touch with the father, really. the mother moved for the job, and they were middle class. Father was a what was he, a dentist, something. Mother was a paralegal. So, like, come on, y'all, really? And I think what it is that the father was still kind of hurt. It comes from the mother just didn't want to be married. She didn't feel the father, not because of another man. And to that day, she had
Mhm.
still hadn't had a boyfriend. But the father
Yeah.
couldn't understand. Well, if she ain't dating nobody, why not take me back? I said, look, bro. Sometimes when they ain't feeling you, they just not feeling you,
Right.
and leave it at that. Move on with your life. Y'all can be friends for the kids. Now they best, they just, and that's one of the things where you don't have to have something so formalized to do good. So getting back to that question, empathy is you have to keep in mind, how would I like to be treated? How would I like to be viewed if I'm dealing with social services or any other individual who's there to have an impact? But as a father, how would I want to be treated in terms of my own history of being treated as my father treated us? That's another
Yeah.
thing with empathy. You highlight the good, you acknowledge the flaws, and then in certain cases, you try to offer a corrective suggestion. Not that it's going to take it today, but you understand that shows transparency between myself and the client, or myself, as a father to my child. I still have
Yeah.
the authority, I still have the responsibility and providence to take care of you, but that doesn't mean I can't be understanding and friendly and supportive and loving.
Yeah.
Um, and knowing that the ultimate goal is to get you to the finish line, raised with the goods and the tools needed to function.
I like what you said. There's a couple things that you said that take me back to a program in the Midwest that I was a part of. We had nurses who worked specifically with first time pregnant moms who were considered at risk. And you know all the categories of at risk what that entails. My job was to figure out how we could put a network around mom and dad. So whether they were together as a couple or not, we wanted to make sure that dad had the ability to be a part of mom's life and
Right,
put some parameters around that. And so as I looked at it, there weren't a lot of other than maybe a few churches here and there that had a fatherhood program or what have you. There just weren't a lot of programs that said, hey, let's wrap our arms around the entire family. Let's make it about mom and baby.
right,
Well,
right, right,
that
right,
that's great. I support that 100%. Support mom and baby, but what if dad, whether they're married or not, wants to provide for that child? What kind of things can you do to try and build up this father and help them understand and recognize their responsibility, the things that they can control versus the things they can't control. Even if mom and dad get along very well, there's still going to be those moments of chaos just because life throws these things in your way, and you have to figure out how you're going to navigate that together. Um, and I look at it, jumping ahead to one of the last things you said, as they're trying to help their child navigate life, as they're trying to help their child navigate choices, what kind of friends to hang out with, and what have you. The studies are very clear. There are people who will provide their child with every possible opportunity, all the money in the world,
yeah,
best schools, and still have a child who's screwing up in the world. And there are families who have children who have nothing.
hmm,
They're on government everything, feeding, diapers, school, whatever it is, and they turn out to take on the world. And so the approach that we took with those fathers specifically was, you have to recognize as a father, you are almost a farmer, where your job is to plant seeds. to nurture that seed and to water it, and you got to kind of let go like the farmer does.
Yeah.
All I can do is put the best I can into helping this being grow, but at some point it's out of your hands. You can't be around when they're in school. You can't be around when they're playing
Yeah.
sports. You can't be around when there's that 30 minutes between the time you get off work and the time you can pick them up from this, that, or the other, or when they're with friends. It's just it's kind of tough to navigate that. And I'd love to jump into our next section here, which is, as you work in social work, I would love for you to kind of unpack for our listeners specific strategies or practices that you recommend for fathers to cultivate empathy within their families.
Oh yeah, that's just pretty simple. For one, active listening, just being in a position to listen to your child, hear them out, and not be so quick to give either an analysis or decision or rebut what they're saying.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that you listened, and if you need more time, just to tell me, hey, let me think about it, and I'll get back. But in the meantime, I'll consider it. And that depends on what age group you're talking about. But in terms of just everything doesn't necessarily have to be a no. Uh, Consideration is a good option as well, because it allows you to put a pause on what's being requested or considered at that point, and then thinking about it, and then not having the child frustrated like they can't do anything, and not
Mm-hmm.
feeling like they're a prisoner, or feeling they're so restricted. Because nothing wrong with being a conservative parent, but you don't want a situation where they feel like they're trapped and got to push back. And once the rebellion starts, sometimes kids will do things just to prove their parents wrong. And some of
Mm-hmm.
the methods are not as healthy as we would like them to be. So it's not really them wanting to do that. It's just to prove their parents wrong. You don't want to start that type of relationship. And if you can catch it early on, catch it. Just doesn't mean that you're ceding in your authority as a parent. That means that you're have age appropriate interaction with your children. It
Yeah.
didn't have to be like when we become like a dictatorship. Because you really don't want a situation where you create or foment resentment by the time you hit 18. You
Mm-hmm.
want that richness and that balance. It's about balance.
Yeah.
But understanding that, what, my parents did this for a reason, and they kind of saved me for myself in certain instances. And I told my daughter, you'll probably understand what I'm talking about when you have your own child. That's the only way I can
Yeah.
describe it to you. You could sit in a class, I could run it down to you. Unless you have that child,
Mm.
it won't click in. And it's
Yeah.
not that I want it to happen soon. It's just there's certain things beyond my control that I can impart or teach, male or female son too. So, but in
Yeah.
the meantime, just trust what I'm telling you, and something that I went through that's pretty much foolproof, whatever it may be. And then another piece is following through. If your child
Yeah.
asks for something and asks you to get back with them. Don't jive them or BS them. Don't if something else comes up, make sure they're still a priority. Although you're
Yeah.
juggling certain things, but just say, if they come back, Dad, did you think? Oh, and just have it, or at least be prepared if and when. Just because they don't ask for help don't mean it's not something still lingering. They may be waiting on you. Yeah, man.
I,
Just
I I hear a lot of what you're saying on that. And it ties into an overall theme that you are sharing with us, which is kind of that emotional journey of the father, because it's there are good times, there are bad times, there are times of experimentation. There's times of just the emergent, where your kids broke a leg and now you got to run to the hospital, or just there's so many things
right.
as a father Um, whether you are co-parenting with mom, you're married with mom, or not in the picture with mom at all, as a single father, which I've been through myself as well. There's an emotional part to being a father, um, that needs to be tended to. The needs of the father need to be tended to, and as you do your work, I wonder how you address and manage the emotional needs of fathers you work with while ensuring their overall well-being.
Some of the fathers are you got a few that are hard to crack, some that
Mm-hmm.
are just toughened over time or been
Mm-hmm.
incarcerated or whatever life change they've gone through. But just with that, the one key thing that I take away is the fact that if you're being real with them, they're going to be real with you. It don't feel
Yeah.
like you're trying to sweet talk them or try to work them. Being as transparent, but knowing that you're in this with them, whether it's a
Yeah.
group or panel or whatever. That's what I've learned, that it's about being authentic, but also letting them know that I may not have had the life experience you had, but I am a father too.
Yeah.
That so that's kind of universal. Now you're looking for ways and tools to get back into. You're a father. You always gonna be a father, but being an active father and being
Right.
present. That's the difference. So we're trying to get you to be more active, more present, more of a connection with your kid, and also creating a legacy and inheritance.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to, and I saying to another father, you may have a inheritance for your kid. You don't want them to inherit anything and they don't know you, or know where this came from, or why this is so important that I'm receiving this gift. They need to know
Yeah.
you. Not that it's
Yeah.
going to change them getting the inheritance, but it helps to know that moving forward, you might utilize those funds or that asset for something good, and there may need to be a background or narrative created. My father left this for me because not in of itself, but he may have been champion for whatever. Who knows? So that's important as well. But also, the fathers see that there's somebody, that a third party that really cares, and they're not doing it just for the money. 'Cause trust me,
Mm-hmm.
this job, we don't never get paid what we worth. They just,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a civil servant, so that tells it all.
Yeah.
Um, it's not something you complain about, but it's not a private entity that can afford certain things. So,
Right.
um, and I tell them, I said, look, I'm on the clock either way. I'm here. I ain't rushing off to get it. I'm here for y'all. If we got to do it another day, that's fine. But it's not one of those things where it's a time frame where I got to go in 2 hours or, okay. No, we sit here
Yeah.
and look at each other, chop it up. We ain't gonna turn into a man cave, but whenever somebody's ready to talk,
Yeah.
we got snacks. At this one group, we got snacks, we got this, we got that. But eventually, there's one person, not me, out the group that starts it. And I just facilitate. It's always that one person. Hey man, we gotta remember why. And then it's somebody who's responsible, made a mistake, who's trying to get back. And then he don't know it, but I let him. I keep it moving, facilitate. But he's kind of like, and he keeps all the other fathers in line who can relate to his background, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a help to me too, because this is like I have experienced what some of the other fathers experience, but he's got certain body language, and ways to say certain things that can keep the group moving. Remind, hey
Yeah.
man, look why we're here for. Come on. Especially if he's an OG, uh, he'll break it down. Say, look, man, I'm a man just like you. I cry in the dark sometimes. I
Yeah.
got him. You know what I mean? He had to learn while in prison and when he got out. And he said, I went in for something stupid.
Hmm.
So he said that whole experience changed his whole perspective on friendship and trusting other men.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't bitter. He just said the biggest thing is not losing his friendship, but losing a connection with his family. That's the key. seeing my kids grow for that period. They've been with them about 10 years or whatever. Reconnecting with my child's mother who um, bore these children and took on the responsibility that he still loved. And so he broke it down, and that secondary piece kind of helped me in my process and getting them to open up a little bit. I ain't saying you got the entire life, but what do you think some of the barriers are for me putting that pride down and submitting to the process of reconnection? You got to
Yeah.
be humble,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with that mama. First of all, get that because she still got all the old stuff that we got to get through.
Right.
Then you got a situation that you need to let her know you can be trusted around her kids. It's your
Yeah.
child, but being around her kids. So it's a process involved. But yeah, I think it's partly me and being transparent, but also um, introducing a one of the participants to kind of help break the ice a little bit.
So I hear that part of it, Michael, and I think it's incredibly difficult. There's so many layers to reentry. You know, when you're thinking about that father who has to come out, it's not just about the apology. It's, you know, rebuilding trust, gaining stability, finding their place in the world after they've done their bid, and now it's, um, you know, how do I incorporate fatherhood into
Mm.
that whole process? And it's never easy. And I hear what you're saying about having that group and, you know, trying to build trust. It's like you're an alien stepping into a new world
Right,
almost, because you're limited in job prospects and a number of different
right,
things.
right.
Um, I'm curious for the fathers that you work with specifically. In your opinion, what are some of the most significant barriers to empathetic fatherhood in today's society? Not specifically for the incarcerated or formerly incarcerated fathers that you work with, but in society as a whole. What do you think those barriers are to empathetic fatherhood? Because I can name probably 10 off the bat from my experience, but I really, coming from your background, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
For most cases, it's probably pride.
Mm,
That's yeah. That's the biggest barrier in terms of at least
yeah.
having a honest dialogue about um, the subject matter in terms of just um, fatherhood and parenting and being empathetic about the approach. So I
Yeah.
would say one, pride, and then two, um, boundaries in terms of as it relates to the mother. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, reconnect with the mother and acknowledge those feelings that come back because you guys might have been married or an item or together for so long. That right there is a determining factor. Are you going to be a great father if the mother is favorable about you coming to her life?
Mm-hmm.
What if she keeps it strictly co-parent? What kind of father are you going to be then? Is it contingent on the mother or contingent on you, whether or not? And then if you're focused on the objective of reuniting with and reconstituting with your children, and the mother is interested in, then you have to deal with that too, and deal with the chance that if you reject that, how that's going to work out, and the little nuances that a lot of times we as social workers have to kind of thread through and kind of get them to think about. That's why the process is really not long but delicate.
Yeah.
And then also I would have to say number three will probably be followed through because it's something new, something they haven't done for so long, and
Mm,
and also
yeah.
being prepared for depending on what the age of the child is for questions that are gonna come up.
Yeah.
That mom never really explained or she held off until you were in a position to talk to them. That right there
Yeah.
that's key. Being prepared for awkward questions, the questions that are going to come up in terms of, why you were gone 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And depending on what age the child is, their question of why should I even reconnect or how's it going to benefit me? You got to deal with all that and being
Yeah.
and remaining um, understanding and calm and letting the process take place because there may have to be maybe several. I'm not gonna put it in this. There may be several times where there's interaction to kind of see if that can take place and not being upset if the child is not responding the way you wanted to respond, or even the child's mother, because all they're left with is what broke you guys up. Certain
Yeah.
things where there was no closure, there was no clarification. Daddy's away, and that's it, and that's all. Questions that you have for dad or for the mom. The mom got to carry the weight and the burden. She's angry and frustrated because he's not here. That indirectly gets put on the kids, and kids, they struggle with the daddy or the mom. Why did mama push daddy away? That whole narrative right there, it's a whole process that can, yeah.
Yeah.
It
It's
just
tough. It's tough. I can only think back to my experience in the Midwest, and working with some of those fathers in terms of trying to help them get reconnected and understanding that it is a tough road just from an employment standpoint. You understand what I'm saying? Just the concept of being able to provide for your family is, if there's a Mount Rushmore of things that fatherhood is supposed to have, providing is one of them. And when that's taken away from you, or your options are greatly limited, um, it can have an adverse effect on that father, in many ways, which plays itself out in the relationship with the kids. So I just look at, the work that you and a lot of the LCSWs do to help unpack that and recognize and um, respect the levels of humanity that these fathers are experiencing when they come out. And it is a tireless job to work through those levels of frustration and the mental health part of it, where they're dealing with any number of things, coming out of incarcerated situations. So it's tough, and recognizing that it's tough. I also want to let our listeners, um, hear some of the lighter parts.
mm.
Uh, you know, can you share an experience where empathy helped resolve a challenging situation for a father you were supporting?
Yeah. Just the most recent group, there was the father struggling with he had a past history of substance abuse, and he went through treatment, and just the issue with embarrassment, and although he's
Mm.
been clean for several years, but the embarrassment of what the family had to go through, and just me trying to get him to forgive himself,
Yeah.
acknowledge what would happen, put it in its proper place, and move on. And I said, pace yourself, because life gives you ups and downs. So if you can master this, everything else will come pretty much. With a cakewalk, if you want to call it that. But getting him to
Yeah.
understand we're all human, we all make mistakes. Get off the cross, man. You paid your dues. You had enough strength and endurance to go get the help needed. You're still back with the embarrassment. Although you're clean, you're still with the
Yeah.
embarrassment, and you haven't had that reconciled. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of helped him understand that you have enough strength already without realizing it to even take care of that and to move on. The fact that you were conscious enough to get the help, sustain
Yeah.
what was given to you and stay clean for 10 years. Yeah. So I had
Hmm.
to, again, help him to see what's already in him and help him to be his own self agency in a sense. And not that I'm working this magical potion. I'm seeing it's easier for somebody to see what's in you than vice versa. You're in it. I'm just pulling out the tools to help you understand what you were taught through treatment and
Yeah.
not feeling hard on yourself just because you're reuniting with your kids. It does bring out a certain level of anxiety
Hmm.
and nervousness. No, you've gone over the biggest hurdle by staying clean and sober for 10 years. That's an
Right.
achievement by itself. And understanding that you're going to do other great things moving forward. And so just kind of letting them know that um, you coming down to yourself is not even, and I tell them, so not even relevant in this situation. You're more. That should have happened way back when. You're just translating, being a little nervous, and feeling like what you felt way back when, and kind of turning that around and kind of getting to see that it's just um, you're nervous and it doesn't. The true stimuli, if you call it, of you being nervous, it doesn't exist. That's something that's self-generated that we have. Sometimes we're not conscious of. And so I was able to turn that around within about 10, 15 minutes. And because I think the following week, I think supposed to be a visit or something with the kids. But they got the tools. It's not because I'm doing it. I just bring out what is already there, what's been there. They just haven't been utilizing the tools that we all have. Even if
Right.
you do have a traumatic event, you have tools to do good, you have tools to do bad too. And you make a
Hmm.
choice. Life's about choices. And remind them of that. The same way we remind our kids. Sometimes you got to go back to brass tacks and bakes and understand that, the benefit of having a two-parent home. And a lot of the fathers had two-parent. They went out and did knucklehead stuff, which
Hmm.
happens. But understand that you can always come back home. You can always come back to who you are and what's important and what started you out in terms of having your children and your family. And just because there's a break in that doesn't mean all is not lost. Life's not over because of that. Get back on the
Yeah.
horse, dust yourself out, and keep on stepping. And then once you do that, that little hiccup become a distant memory. Because in life sometimes our own mind have us thinking that we're still that bad person 30 years ago, that we haven't changed or evolved, or
Right.
we let certain people have more control over us than we need to in terms of always reminding us of how we were. That ain't a friend. That's
Mm.
somebody from your past that's trying to create havoc. And and,
Yeah.
and, and I tell them you might have to shed some friends along the way. Everybody can't go on
Yeah.
your journey with you. And the ones that are really really your friends, they understand.
Yeah.
But the ones that are fussing and all that, this, that, and the other, they ain't really your friends because
Hmm.
they weren't users, but they never told you no either.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my insight on that.
That's wonderful. Like I think my love of coaches,
Mm.
I'm never shy of because they play multiple roles. They play the father figure. They play the
Yep.
mentor. They hold you accountable, and often pull things out of you that you never knew you even had in you. And there's a coach that I won't embarrass him now by saying his name, but I had a college coach when I was getting my butt kicked at Purdue as a little bitty nothing, who would take those days when I just wasn't getting a concept defensively or offensively, and after being yelled at all practice by Coach Katie, I'd go over and the assistant coach were just doing shooting drills, and he would plant this seed, and he'd say it anytime, and I have not forgotten it because I coached for many years after that, and I used the exact same thing, exact same phrase. And the phrase was this: you can either let this day, these mistakes today, define you, or they can refine you. They can define you, or they can refine you, but you need to determine for yourself which one that is. And every day I think about, not just what I said to my kids as I coached them on a basketball court, but I use those same conversations with fathers coming out of lockup. Hey, you did it. You accepted. You paid your time. You paid your dues. Now what? Are you going to let what happened define who you are for the next 20, 30 years? The experience you have with your kids, your relationships, your coworkers when you get to that point? Or are you going to refine yourself and understand where you want to go in your relationships, in areas like that? And that kind of empathy made a mark on me. I use it to this day with my kids. And I would love to know from you specifically, how do you see the role of empathy evolving in future generations for fathers who specifically buy in, or yeah, I guess buy-in is the right word, to empathy and what it can do?
Just again, my own transparency model. That's probably the only way. You try to be transparent, not just respectfully giving them enough to understand that I'm could or was where you were,
Mm-hmm.
but and then also in the same sense, not making it about me, but helping you to kind of see for yourself that no matter what people go through similar instances, it's just how it's mitigated or how it's resolved,
Yeah.
or how long you've been dealing with that. But I would say that's key right there, and being plain speak, being real, and also kind of putting some fire up under their behind. Say, look,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna hold your hand, but you gotta be a man. And you talk about it, manhood about other instances. Talk manhood about being right, doing right by your children now, and mending the fence.
Yeah.
Talking and doing are two different things. It's just two opposites. You got to close the gap on that.
Yeah.
Some talk about you grew up, your word is your bond, and then make it your bond. Because you can jive and BS me all day long. I'm trying to go back out there so the kids and the child mother, whoever you with, won't pick up on it. Because they'll call you out. And then that drives you back into a level of who you were before. That brings on tension, drama, argument, whatever you want to call it, and you back at square one again.
Yeah.
Be humble. I'm not saying you got to, be a pushover. I'm saying humble yourself to the point that can physically manifest and say, look, I've reconciled my past issues. Positioning myself to resume active care, active fatherhood, and I'm willing
Mm-hmm.
to work with the mother in achieving that, and that's it.
Yeah.
And having a plan, action plan, and then befriending the mother. And
Yeah.
if you haven't apologized, give her a closure too, because
Yeah.
it wasn't just the kid affected. Your woman was affected by your behavior, your inappropriate behavior, whether it was drugs or alcohol involved or not. Whether you was out there doing crazy stuff, wilding out, gang banging, drug selling, just criminal activity, white collar, blue collar, whatever. Just
Mm-hmm.
not being there, just being a womanizer, being a whoremonger, idolater, whatever. We can go down the whole list from the Bible. But it's that's just being real with yourself. You can fake everybody out, but you can't fake yourself out.
Yeah.
And people, especially children, will pick up that energy. these people toxic energy. But when you go from there to being not toxic, people know the difference too.
Yeah.
But you have to be patient enough for them to accept that back and not get mad when it's not readily accepted that at that time. It's a process. Cause they gotta learn to trust you again. If I get any back, is he gonna flake out on me again? He's gonna do what he did before. Yeah.
Right. Michael, this has been wonderful, and I look forward to putting some of the resources that you and I discussed in the show notes for people who are wanting to, figure out resources and tools that have been, particularly helpful for supporting fathers in developing empathy, specifically with individuals who are, newly released from prison, or for individuals that may be coming out of prison soon, like how to help them kind of land a little more softly than our nation has helped them in the past. But I would love to give you the opportunity, to share what message you would like to leave for our listeners about the importance of empathy and fatherhood overall.
Well, in one instance, it's never too late.
Yeah.
And what I mean is, it's never too late to have an impact on someone in terms of our perception of thinking that all hope is lost. One of the things that makes us all human is our way to be empathetic towards each other and to have just a consciousness for concern for others, but also our ability to put word to action as well out of that empathy.
Yeah.
And depending on the situation and the person's ability to convey that's always there. We have free will. We have the ability to help or encouragement, to hinder, to help. But empathy, you can't go wrong with that, because that's a substantive thing that's internal that our both our soul and our mind can comprehend. Sometimes you don't even need, you can say a few words and a person picks up on that. It can change the narrative, the spiritual narrative of the person. So that it's a lot of what they call, what I call root work, meaning that from the spiritual standpoint, that people are not clear about. We're all beings that feel, but we also have souls, and we also connect from a spiritual standpoint. So it's a spiritual connection. The empathy, yes, it's a connection, but more above that is our spiritual connection and our ability to help somebody make themselves whole again, without any type of effort on your part, or any feeling like you're giving up something just to help somebody else.
Well, Michael, thank you so much, not only for being on our show, which is a blessing for me, not only to connect with family, but with someone who's doing so much in the field. But I also want to thank you for your continued work. This is not something you did for a couple of years and then you're like, I'm out. This has
Right.
been a lifelong thing of you planting seeds and uplifting, one community after another. And there's a ripple effect. There's a lot of work that you're doing that is really helping to end some of that generational trauma that gets passed down from group to group. And I have nothing but the utmost respect and love for you and for what you're doing for the community.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. It's always good to hear the feedback that you're in the right direction and you have an impact on individuals. It's not what I think, it's what people say that matters in terms of what the impact I have on them. We can think that we're in the right place and at the right time, but it's real good to hear positive feedback from those that are most affected, or those that can acknowledge that, okay, he's in the right direction. So that's what I gauge myself on. We can, it's easy to puff ourselves up, man. Feel good about what I'm doing, but proof is in the pudding with the people. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's like anything else, man. But no, it's great today. I even kind of boosted up my excitement about getting the platform more so now that I had before, and then learning more about myself in terms of where I am and myself at this point in my life and the work that needs to be done, and on a bigger scale, and then individually as well. Just what I've been blessed to impart.
Outstanding. The Unbroken Place podcast is presented by Elevate One Consulting. The show was produced by Say Something Studios. Learn more about both of these in the show notes. The show's music is performed by Little Glass Men and Captive Portal. We want to thank you for being a part of the Unbroken Place community. Look for an ongoing conversation on Instagram and Facebook at the handle @UnbrokenPlace. You can also find some helpful resources at eddiepaulthomas.com. Make sure to sign up for our newsletter called OK on Second Thought on LinkedIn. Until next time, one love. Revitalize your brand and accelerate your impact with Eddie and Erica at Elevate One Consulting. Experts in organizational development, digital marketing, and much more. From leadership coaching to creating unforgettable digital experiences, we've got you covered. Visit elevateoneconsulting.com today. Elevate One Consulting. Innovate, grow, elevate. Say Something Studios.